I'd like to call to order the Clarkston Independence District Library Board of Trustees meeting for April 17th, 2023. Meeting is called to order at 6:32. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Jan Gaffney. Here. Allison McFadden-Keesling.
Here.
Nancy Moon absent. Alan Cantor.
Here.
Marilyn Pomeroy.
Here.
Maggie Sands.
Here.
Chris Schultz.
Here.
Julie Merrick.
Okay. I'll accept a motion for approval of the agenda.
I'll move it.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any comments or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Call to the public.
Well, I'm Joe Olay from Friends. Just a couple points, please. Available funds are this month are $33,513.68. The spring wish list was approved at the general meeting for $18,400. Looked like a great wish list. Newsletters for Mrs. Moon were mailed out. And we did have an election. We had a transition, obviously, from Jeanette. And Julie Meyer has taken over as president. She was president-elect. And I have taken over as president-elect. But I'm keeping the other things that I have right now. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the book sale's coming.
The book sale's coming, 23rd, thereabouts, yeah.
Is it Tuesday? Tuesday next week?
Starts Tuesday for the 3 o'clock in the afternoon this time for the 3 days, yes.
Yeah.
3 o'clock.
Yeah,
That wasn't
3 to
early.
We're
3 to 7.
Okay, great.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
I'll move that we accept it as presented.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Sure.
Okay, it's moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda as approved. Does anyone wish to ask about any particular item? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Okay, library statistics.
No statistical
You don't
report.
have any statistics to respond.
We are still compiling.
As long,
I was looking through everything.
as long as
Sorry.
that doesn't mean there were no attendees.
Nobody came, no programs, no nothing. We didn't do a thing in the last.
There was so much to compile, they're still working on it.
That's actually more accurate. And fewer people do it.
That seems to be the case everywhere currently. Okay, library director's report.
I have a lot on my report this evening. So in terms of general update, in October, the library board approved the purchase of a replacement for the largest HVAC rooftop unit. The new unit was installed on April 12th, and everything seemed to go smoothly. The final inspection related to the building permit will take place on April 21st. Everything seems to be working okay, but we'll see what the inspector has to say. The April class that I'm taking as part of the year-long Library of Michigan financial cohort training through the University of Georgia is purchasing. We are already using some of the materials from the class to review some of our workflows and look for ways to improve our checks and balances. At our special meeting on April 5th, the library board approved the posting of the collaborations librarian. The posting closes April 17th, today. The selection committee will convene this week to review the applicants to set up interviews in the coming weeks, and we hope to have a selected candidate for the board to approve at the meeting on May 15th. So that's moving right along. Biz Gallo, the Library of Michigan's statewide digitization initiatives coordinator, will be visiting our library on Thursday, April 20th to experience our library's various local history preservation efforts. We will be showing off the Clarkston Historic District website, our digitized Clarkston News and Clarkston High School yearbooks, and the Clarkston Heritage Museum that is housed within the library. And she's very excited to come and see all that we have to offer.
And I'd like to send a thank you to Don Rush for a very nice article in the Clarkston News about libraries in general, and ours also. It was a very nice article.
Yes, thank you.
And I mentioned it because he was mentioning some of those items.
It's very true. That's very true. As part of the library's annual staff training day in October, all employees took the Clifton Strengths Assessment to learn their top 5 strengths and how we can coordinate each person's assets to work better as a team. We have added some new staff since October, so we will be doing another round of assessments to include these new team members and an additional training on May 12th for staff who were not here in October. Library board members are also invited to take this assessment, so I will get that information out to you so you can take it. It's really fun and easy to do. Recently, the IT staff and I met with Nancy Moon in her role as the chair of the Clarkston Historic District Survey Committee to discuss beginning to add the city's documentation on certificates of appropriateness that have been approved by the Clarkston Historic District Commission to the Clarkston Historic District website. This is a feature that was built into the design of the website but had not yet been put to use. It will provide easy access to the letters that homeowners in the historic district have been given permission to make these changes to the fronts of their homes. These documents will be attached to the page that represents each address within the historic district and will make it easy for homeowners to see what has been done to their home in the past as well. This will be an ongoing project to retroactively scan and post the past documents that the city has been archiving on paper since the historic district was formed in the 1980s, while we also add new approvals as they are being executed going forward. So this is a bit of a project, but we're going to kind of go year by year and do them as we can. And then it'll be really easy for people. They can just go in under the house address and see all of that. So.
That's the great thing about a web page.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We have a bunch of collaborations as well. On Wednesday, May 10th, the Clarkston Community Awards Breakfast will take place at the Clarkston Community Church. In its 38th year, this event brings the community together to recognize outstanding people, organizations, and endeavors that make Clarkston great. And each year, the library is involved in the committee that plans this event. Uliance, the company that we use as our employee assistance program, known as an EAP, offers a wide variety of support services, including counseling, crisis intervention, webinars, life coaching, and HR consultation for managers. As part of their services, they have been looking for new activities to engage employees in positive ways. They are beginning a pilot program for a book club that employees can read and discuss management and self-improvement books. As a client that is also a library, we have been asked to host the first book group, The Atomic Habits by James Clear. I will assist an employee of Uliance with the discussion hosted through Zoom. I will also have some time at the end of the session to share how public libraries can be a source of ebooks and e-audiobooks. While Uliance is a nationwide company, it is based in Troy, so many of their clients are local. So this will be a great way for me to advocate for public libraries both locally and on a larger scale. And then once they kind of have had a library help them do this hosting, they're going to kind of go off and do it on their own. So I don't know if they'll use future hosts or not, but they decided they kind of wanted a librarian to help them through that first process. So.
Wise.
And then as we talked about just briefly, the Friends of the Library Spring Book Sale will take place on April 26th through the 29th with the Friends Preview Night on April 25th from 3 to 7. In collaboration, the Church of the Resurrection will host their Spring Bake Sale in the library's lobby from April 28th to the 29th, which raises funds for local charities, including a donation toward children's books for the library. The breakdown of the book sale, which takes place on April 29th, will include a team of Community Impact Weekend volunteers. Impact Weekend is the twice-a-year event in which hundreds of volunteers come together to serve the community on a variety of projects to support local nonprofits. So that's kind of a three ways that we've got. That we've got the Friends and the church across the street, and also Impact Weekend volunteers all busily working at the library. And then last, just a little thing, geocaching is an outdoor recreational activity in which participants use a GPS or mobile device or other navigational techniques to hide and seek containers called geocaches or caches at specific locations marked by coordinates all over the world. A typical cache is a small waterproof container containing a logbook and sometimes a pen or pencil. The geocacher signs the log with their established code name and dates it in order to prove that they found the cache. After signing the log, the cache must be placed back exactly where the person found it, and we were approached by a local geocacher for permission to place a geocache on the library property. Because the library is public property, we allowed this as another interesting way to incorporate the library into the community, so happy hunting, geocachers. It's out there somewhere.
That's a sizable space too.
It's no Pokemon.
What's that?
I said it's no Pokemon.
We have a Pokemon out front, too.
Oh, yeah?
Everybody was out in front of the library. It's out in the garden club garden out front. So, yeah, so we've got all kinds of stuff that draw people in. But now we've got a geocache, too.
Okay. I think we'll move to regular business.
Okay, so our employee assistance program, what you have in your little pile of handouts with your director's report, In 2020, the global pandemic put a direct spotlight on the importance of normalizing conversations about mental health. In support of employee well-being, a formal employee assistance program was written into the 2021 budget. Alliance, based in Troy, Michigan, was selected, and their 1 to 5 fixed visit plan covering all full-time and part-time employees, library board members, and dependents was put in place. Alliance provides reports on usage while still protecting the privacy of the staff, allowing us to evaluate the value of offering this service. So you have the report in front of you. This would be the 2022 usage. And so we have used, over the course of the year, we have 46 employees total. And this is month-by-month service, and the kinds of usage that we are getting is telephone counseling, intake. We also have referrals and sessions. There was a management HR consultation as well. And you can see March got the most usage, but there was also usage in April, May, June, November, and December. The feedback that I get from the staff, I do have people who pop in and say this is a great service that we are offering. You as board members know that once a month I send out a well-being email, and usually it's just some sort of a well-being message, and then it also includes that contact information, and that helps people as well. So this is only through December, but I sat down with our service rep, and he said already at the beginning of this year we've seen good usage, both people looking into things like the webinars and some of the life coaching kinds of services as well. So
I think it's a great resource.
yeah, it's been a really good service. The staff really likes having the availability of it. But as you can see, there are certain times of the year when it gets more usage than others. So.
I love those emails that you send out.
Oh, thank
every
you.
month. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's, it's funny because our rep said that we actually get really good usage, and we get sort of uniform usage, and he's always really impressed that for a small organization, the usage that we're getting. And I said, well, I send out these little emails every month. I use a lot of the content that they share with me and that they send out, but then I think I reinforce it by picking it up and sending it out to people, because I think not everybody reads the emails that come directly from Alliance. So anyway, I feel it's a really great service. I think the staff thinks it's a really great service, but I wanted to kind of update you because we did just renew it. And so we'll want to keep an eye on usage over the course of the year, because we'll be talking about renewing it in the fall again.
Yeah, make sure it is used.
Make sure that it is used, yes, yes. It got a lot of usage in 2021.
In 2022.
And then this is 2022, so 2022 is still solid usage.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, considering the size of the staff, that's actually pretty substantial.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, number 2.
Okay, number 2. Okay, so during the 2022 performance review process, the library board discussed transitioning to an online system for gathering and submitting performance review feedback. So what I have for you tonight, and Bill is here as well, so this will be nice to have him present so that he can kind of, if he wants to help coach me on anything. I'm going to show you sort of the prototype of the initial draft of this.
You can wake up your computer. Wake up, not yours as well. Wake up your computer as well.
There.
There.
Thank you. See, that's why we have him here. There we go. Okay. So basically it's a Survey Monkey. We have subscribed to Survey Monkey, and we got a professional plan so that it would allow us to do some visuals with it as well. So you'll see that this looks very much like the questionnaire that you originally saw and that is in your packet that you see on paper. You go to that first page and then go to next. And you can see it looks very much like what you saw. And you click on these little boxes based on, you read the statement, and then you pick the one that you think is the appropriate one, whatever that very well may be. At the bottom, we're still working on this piece. So essentially on the bottom of the survey, the paper survey, it says to you what the totals will range in order to
equate to excellent, satisfactory, or poor. When it was set up, they set it up as a placeholder, and so you can click on it, but really what we wanted to do is calculate for you. So we're still working on how to get it to do that part.
Okay.
But essentially, then you go to next, and that would be the next page. Oops. Oh, the wrong thing, sorry.
Which is that you have an answer.
It doesn't have an answer. Okay, there we go.
Well, this will certainly make it easier to tabulate on the behalf of the committee.
Yep. So you fill out the dots. Now, we're still working out some of the details on the functionality of it, but in terms of how it looks, it does feel very much like what you're familiar with, what it looks like in real life.
Okay.
Are there any concerns you have about the way that we were using it on paper, what you would like it to see, like, how you would like to see it working in terms of electronic aid?
As long as I can read it.
Okay.
Looks good. Yeah, I mean, it does, visually, it looks like what we've been doing, and, the only thing is, if you can get the functionality to where it can actually, like, keep the score, that would be great.
It
But,
may not calculate as you go. You may have to fill out the whole thing, and then instead of seeing the score at the bottom, you would get to, we would print you a report at the end.
which is fine, because I don't need to see the score at the bottom. If I wanted, I can figure out whether I'm leaning towards excellent or poor without seeing the score at the bottom, without having to count it,
So
so.
you could probably just pull that right off the bottom.
So we either.
Yeah,
pull it
and
or
then
we
just
leave it
get,
as-
just a
as
report at the end
informational.
is great.
Yeah.
Do you want this information at the bottom so that you know what those ranges are?
I think so, because these are different, they're asking different sets of questions.
Yeah.
It's just like the paper form.
Okay.
We just basically translate
Yeah.
the paper
Yeah.
form directly into a survey.
That's fine.
But you couldn't you just leave that information at the bottom of the
And leave
ranges
it as
without?
not a question.
It's not a question,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay. So then we'll do that.
And then if we get a report telling us, the overall of what everybody's is altogether, I think that's,
And essentially what we're seeing now that, once they get it to the point where we've got the functionality sort of where we want it, we'll run some test runs so we can see what the reports will look like.
Okay.
You should be able to get a report of what your individual answers were if you were to want that, or we can just do a cumulative as well. So. Does that sound okay?
that sounds good.
Yeah, and we have several months before we need to do that.
Right, but I thought this was a good time to bring it in and get some feedback,
Yes.
make sure we were headed in the right direction instead of handing it to you in September and having you say, oh, I don't like this. So, you should have done this. So this is a great opportunity to say, anything that you, all good?
Looks perfect.
Yep.
Okay, all right. That's easy.
Okay. Good.
I'm gonna get my steps in tonight. Walking back and forth.
Moving to item number 3.
Okay. Item number 3. Okay. So from time to time, we are approached by individuals interested in pursuing their Eagle Scout Award. These are intensive projects designed to demonstrate commitment to community service, leadership, and project management skills. It is the responsibility of the Scout to come up with a project that is also beneficial to the receiving organization. CIDL is working with a potential Eagle Scout candidate on a proposal for a project that could be executed this summer. This will be an initial discussion of possible proposal so that the board may provide feedback during these initial conversations. Money for this execution of this project must be fundraised by the Eagle Scouts. This doesn't cost the library anything. So what you have before you is an explanation of what the scouting project entails, which kind of gives you an idea of what it is that they're required to do. They have to come up with the idea, they have to get it approved by the Scout Council, they have to raise the money for it, they have to buy all the materials and supervise other scouts in order to execute the project. So we talked to the scout about what he was interested in doing, and he had 2 or 3 ideas. The idea that inspired him most was a hammock garden done somewhere else. And he was interested in doing this, and Stacia, our head of children's services, was interested in pursuing this with him. So I have some pictures so that the public can see a little bit of what a hammock garden is, because not everybody knows what a hammock garden is. I didn't know what a hammock garden was. Although I have to admit, I have a hammock at home and I absolutely love it.
So
Oh, yeah. And these are really
Um,
good. That's good.
I do recommend them. So a hammock garden.
There it is.
A hammock garden is a series of posts that can be put in any configuration, but it's often put like with one post in the middle, and then a post, and a post, and a post, and a post, and then you string the hammocks from the middle post out to the end, and so you've got this, so that more than one person can have a hammock at one time.
Okay.
And hence the garden, that there's more than one. So we were talking about if we were gonna do a hammock garden, where exactly would we put this?
Right.
Yeah.
Our thinking is, and the area that he thought would be nice would be down by our story walk, which is the land that is just beyond the end of the parking lot, right before the woods. So that would be a nice area to do that.
Yeah.
That is technically not the library's property, that actually belongs to the school. So there's this big piece of property, and this corner of it was sold to the township for $1 for the purpose of building a library, and we live on that little piece, and all of the property that surrounds us belongs to the school district. They built the admin building right next door,
Right.
so, and then this part down here is still school property, so all of that beyond our parking lot is school property.
Including the story walk.
The story walk itself is actually on school property. That's a collaboration between the school and the library. It was a grant that the school got. They executed the grant using their construction trades class. And then we babysit it by putting the story in it and maintaining the walkway, because of course they're not here in the summer, so they don't have to, that way they don't have to worry about maintaining the pathway and all that. We're here all summer, we're super busy in the summer, so we make sure that our landscaping crew maintains it, and that's how we collaborate. So this would be something that if we want to do this and we want to put it there, I would need to speak to the school, make sure that's okay, although they have been really open to us using that space. They don't mind when we have programs there or whatever, so I don't think that they're going to mind, just as long as we follow all safety standards and that sort of thing.
Well, it also ties into what schools like to do, which is teach children to read. So
Yep,
that
yep.
would be fine.
So one of the other things that we had talked about with our potential scout doing this project is that we don't have any shade, none. There are no trees down there, and we would be putting it in a big open area. So we talked about the possibility of, in his proposal, making these posts taller and not only having a hammock, but also having some sort of a little canopy above.
Good idea.
So it would be sort of a two-part. The things would just hook right to the posts. So this is how we do it at my house, because I have I also have a hammock at home. We unhook the hammock in order to be able to mow. So we would be able to do that once a week. So the lawnmower crew would not, they would have to maneuver between the posts, but we could make sure that they're far enough apart. And the standard distance between posts on a hammock is about 15 feet. So they shouldn't really have any trouble. I don't get too much complaint from the person who mows at my house. My husband doesn't complain too much about it, as long as the hammock isn't there and you can get under it, he doesn't complain too much. He passes if he's through. So anyway, any questions that you would, yes?
Would the hammocks stay out all summer long, or do you have to borrow them from the library? How does this work? Do I hook them up myself?
Our thinking would be that we would put them out for the summer and that we would just unhook them. Basically what they can do, if they're soft like those, we would unhook them and hook them to the other post so that they could mow through them, and then we just hook them and put them back.
Got it.
Make it easy for them in terms of the practicality of getting around it instead of taking them down.
And you
Where-
don't think that theft or vandalism would be an issue?
It
Just
could be,
curious.
it absolutely could be, and that's something that we're going to
Right,
want
because
to
I
address.
envisioned that they would check out
That's what I was
the
thinking,
hammocks
check
at
it
the
out.
front desk and,
We could do that and make that a thing as well, yep, and just have them hook it on there,
yeah.
yep.
I mean, to me, then you've eliminated the possibility of theft. You can't eliminate vandalism altogether, but,
True,
you know,
true,
just a thought.
yep.
Now, if we had a canopy, I'm thinking of those rainstorms, windstorms that we get. I'd be somewhat concerned about the safety of the canopy,
True.
whether it would likely to be ripped or,
You mean like what happened in downtown Pontiac with that beautiful canopy they put?
yes, sort of like that.
Yeah, like that. Gone.
That's a good point, and we would need to address that and talk that through and figure out how we were going to handle that, if we were expecting really bad weather to take them down.
I agree that having a little shade while you're reading would be
Mhm.
ideal.
Because there's really none down there.
No.
Now, the one I have at home is, uses straps and it's hung between two big cherry trees. So it doesn't damage the trees, but also there's tree hanging over me, so that's
Yeah.
nice. But there's nothing like that down there, so that would be a concern as well.
I haven't walked down to that area, and this is showing my own allergic reaction. There are a lot of mosquitoes and things down there? So
We
I'm thinking if
actually-
you're sitting reading, that's a
We
tough
actually
thing.
treat the property in the summertime because of that, yeah. Otherwise, people wouldn't use the story walk either.
Right,
So,
okay.
Yeah, we do.
So we already do that.
We do that because, and we get support from the township because of West Nile. So they actually treat the wetland that's off to the side to make sure, on both sides, to make sure that we're not getting West Nile issues.
Okay.
as well. So, yeah, very good question, though. Absolutely.
So who will be discussing this with the Eagle Scout?
Stacia and I are working with them.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're working with them to kind of figure out how this is all going to work. It shouldn't be a real expensive project because we are talking about a situation where it's posts and hammocks, and they're not, the whole thing is not very expensive. It's not going to be a huge project for him to raise money for. It was executed, a similar project was executed by another scout, so he has some inspiration and hopefully some troubleshooting as well.
Doesn't have to reinvent the
He
wheel.
does not have to reinvent the wheel. Some of the best Eagle Scout projects are ones that are replicated. So it makes it a little easier for the scout to not have to come up with everything from start to finish.
I mean, I think it sounds like a cool idea, as long
Yeah,
as it can be, made safe and.
Knowing where it's gonna be now, I feel better. I was thinking that it was gonna be here, and I was picturing these posts just sitting there, and I didn't think it would look very good, but over there,
Yeah,
I think it'd be great.
yeah.
I suppose if it's on school property, I'm just thinking through liability insurance, would that fall to the school or would that fall to us?
I believe that, it's a really good question. I'm gonna have to ask about that because when we're doing programs, our liability insurance covers all the way because it's our program.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm gonna have to talk to them about that, but that's a very good question.
Okay.
Because it would be on their property. The story walk is on their property as well, so. But that's not as dangerous as the possibility of whipping yourself out of a hammock, so good question. Good question.
According to the pictures here,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be going very far.
No, they keep it really
Yeah.
low.
Yeah.
Was it 2 or 3 feet?
I mean, we can't insure for embarrassment.
Well, those are the questions when I call, usually I call over to Hyde and Clean and talk to her first, when we do these kinds of projects, and she will obviously bring all those up and say, hey, what about?
Yeah, because the liability question could kind of go either way, because it's still the sort of our ongoing program, especially
It
if,
In the summer.
if we decided we were checking out the hammocks to the
Yeah.
individuals we're
Well,
gonna use them, so.
I think it's a great thing too for maybe teen readers. I think, so this will span the ages of who it could be popular with, so I like that.
Yeah. Well, and.
Or even adult readers, quite frankly.
Well, and to go back to your thing about the mosquitoes, it's actually more mosquito-y on that side and this side, but that part back there is a little less wet. It's a
Okay,
little bit
good.
higher ground back there, so
Okay.
actually these side parts are a little bit more wet as well. I was just kind of thinking about that, and it doesn't get as much back down.
Okay, good.
Lakes that way, and swamp is that way.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
All right.
I got one question.
Very
Sorry. So let's just say that this doesn't work out, that for whatever reason, we decide that
Yep.
this isn't working out, this
Yep.
isn't a good thing, and it needs to be removed. And then that's gonna be the responsibility of the library,
It would
right?
be our responsibility to go, yep.
Mhm.
Yep, that's how these kind of projects work. That's something to keep in mind, yep.
Mhm. Okay. And I'm assuming the cost of that would be somewhat negligible, somewhat, because they're gonna put concrete footings on these,
Absolutely.
which, I don't know if you'd ever
Maybe,
even
maybe
think
not.
about.
Some of the ways that they're supposed to have to look into this, sometimes they fill them in with gravel instead of just straight concrete now. I'm gonna have to look into that and see how they're doing for something that's all in for a hammock as well, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're not gonna get the same
Because it provides a
stress
little bit
on
of drainage, so
Okay.
I'm gonna have to double check.
It needs to be sturdy.
Absolutely,
So that,
absolutely,
you can't,
yep. Yeah,
fall
but,
that way.
but then again, that's, like I said, that's another thing that we would probably negotiate out with the school as well and see how much we would be responsible for, how much they would be responsible for. It's a scout project, so they are usually pretty supportive of those kinds of things. And we collaborate on a lot of things, but when it comes to money, we usually are pretty good about
Right.
sharing costs
Right.
and things like that. So we will, that's a very good point, I will make sure that I.
But
get that.
the reality is that this project will get done, and then that Eagle Scout will get his badge, and he'll go on in his life, and
Yep.
it'll be here.
Well, just like our little free libraries, we've used Memorial Day in
Yeah.
order to to restore the ones that the Girl Scouts, the little 3 libraries that the Girl Scouts had put in. So if and when that might happen, we might end up having to raise money to do that or look at transfer station.
Okay.
So if it's popular, eventually when the hammocks give out, although frequently our hammock is still hanging in there after 30 years, so I don't, but if they give out and it's going well, we would probably then replenish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we always get asked about different ways that people can enjoy the outside here. So we've got benches all over the place and that sort of thing, so.
Good.
But like you said, I mean, they do
When you have
tend
your lunch,
to hold up
maybe
pretty
lunch.
well, assuming that there's no vandalism or theft.
Right.
So if they last over a long period of time, it's probably, if it brings people to the library grounds, and yet another positive effect that we've had on the community, if we occasionally have to replace a hammock.
Right. And it may allow our children's department to have more outside activities using that space, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, well, I will keep you posted on how it's going and what ends up happening. This is still in the initial stages. He could change his mind and come back and suggest something different, but this is the one that he seems interested in doing, and we wanted to go down that path. I just want to make sure the board was okay with us pursuing it. Seems like you're okay with it at this point, though.
Yes.
Okay. Lots of questions to answer, but that's okay. Very good. Thank you.
Okay,
Do
number
you need a motion or
4.
anything on that?
Pardon?
You said, did
Not
we need a
yet.
motion?
Nope.
No,
Okay.
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay.
just getting our input, right? Number 4, update on transition to our new financial software and the audit.
Okay, so the transition from QuickBooks Online to QuickBooks Desktop has been completed. The reconciliation accountant has provided a report of the finalization of the project, which is in your packet. The library's contracted accountant will complete her portion of the reconciliation work the week of April 18th. And the library's administrative staff will complete the compilation of the documentation for the audit by the end of April. The audit will take place in early May, and the auditor is scheduled to present the audit to the library board at the June 12th meeting. So essentially, the reason I have brought you this report is so you can take a look at it and let me know what questions you may have. I may or may not be able to answer all of them. Melissa, who is the reconciliation accountant, offered to come in and do a presentation if you would like, or asked if you wanted to create a subcommittee that would meet with her, or she wanted to know how you wanted to proceed with sort of finalizing that reconciliation. And I said, well, you know what, I will take the report to them and I will talk to them about it and see how they feel. So.
I have a question or a comment, might be able to be solved with just a follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of indications here on the lines. It's either not entered / deleted or not found,
Mm-hmm.
and having kind of a key that says, what do those, because it's repeated, so it's,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
obviously a clear thing. What that designates or what that is significant for,
Mhm.
that would be, I think, helpful.
Okay. So you need a key to what's presented.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, the ones that are quite straightforward, the food delivery, the print shop, that's
Mhm.
nothing needed for that. Just the ones where it's the repeated, the two that are sticking out for me here is not entered / deleted and not found.
Okay. Well, what she did was if she had something that was not entered or deleted, then she put it in appropriately. One of the things that we had with QuickBooks is that things did disappear.
Oh, okay.
And what she's indicating is
was
she fixed it.
Okay.
She
got
fixed it from the paper copy.
I understand.
So we had all the paper copies.
We had all of the paper copies, and when QuickBooks sort of imploded in November and weird things started appearing, and we hired a reconciliation accountant to rebuild it from the ground up using paper.
Okay.
And
Well,
she
that
went
makes a lot
through
more sense.
page by page and double checked everything, and so these were some of the things that she corrected.
Which is why we went from the online version to the other version.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that makes much more sense.
Does that make more sense? Okay.
So the desktop has proved so far to be,
It's printing properly, it is writing reports properly, we've had much smoother workflows with this one. There are a few things that are different. We're tripping over a few of those little things, but that's just growing pains, getting used to it, and whatever. We had used the desktop prior to the online version, and I think there was maybe some thought that we were going to remember it more easily than we did, and it's been long enough that it's maybe not as, we don't remember it as well as we thought we were going to. So there are a few little things that we've kind of gotten frustrated with, like where is this button and where is that button and whatever, but I think it's going okay in terms of getting transitioned over.
And we also can back it up. So if something were to happen again, we could go back to an earlier, so like, we
Yeah.
could go back a month or whatever, and
Oh,
start
good.
from there.
Good,
We
yeah.
want to keep it maybe a month, which we didn't have with the online.
We have more control over how far back it goes. By the time we realized what the problem was, we tried to go back and recapture an earlier version, and we couldn't go back far enough.
Okay.
Whereas now we have the ability to control how far back it saves.
Well, let me ask you, throughout the process of re-entering and doing all that, were there any surprises other than you didn't remember the system well enough? Like, was there any discoveries, any surprises, anything that caught your attention?
Do we really have any?
Do you mean like, did she point out anything that was strange? That we
Yeah,
didn't
like as
notice,
we
or-
were re-entering everything, you were like, okay, this is as expected, or like, oh gosh, we didn't
I
realize.
think as she went through it, it was pretty as expected.
Okay.
'Cause, I mean, she was working right off of our paper copies.
Mhm.
She had asked to see the online just to kind of take a look, but it was pretty, like, we were wonky, so she had a hard time going back and forth between the two, because certain
to
things, like you
reconcile.
said, Julie said, like, there was things that we had obviously paid because we had the paperwork with the check stuff, so it was 100% printed for QuickBooks, but it wasn't in there at all. So I had deleted some checks and like put it onto a different check that never existed.
Mhm.
So as far as weird, I don't think so. As far as what I've seen on there and what I've gone through, it seems pretty on par for what our normal
Yeah.
activity is.
Great, thank you.
So by having the paper copy,
Yeah.
we had the checks,
Yes.
okay, to
Yeah.
check on.
And that was one of the things that was pointed out by the reconciliation accountant and also by our auditor, that we keep good, clean paper records, which was why, I pointed out more than once that he was not as concerned as I was when I called him in a panic, and he said, you have good paper records. I'm not worried about you rebuilding this. So there were a couple of things that, where the check numbers didn't match up, which we knew about. Apparently, we had a situation where we had a stack of checks that had slid down behind. I mean, this was an old-fashioned problem.
Yeah.
That slid down behind, and when we took the next batch, the checks, of course, the QuickBooks had tried to use the consecutive numbers, and we discovered as we were printing the checks that the numbers weren't matching up. And it took us a little bit to figure out what happened to this little handful of checks that slid behind or whatever. And she was able to capture those, and she's like, do you know you have some check numbers that didn't match up? And you're like, you found them, good. You have fixed those. So, so she fixed.
So are we required to keep the paper copies for a certain period of time under the state
Yes,
retention
so,
retention
so
law?
the records retention, I believe, is 7 years.
Yes.
But what we do, we keep 2 years, or current year plus 1, on paper in the building.
Right.
And then we take what is prior to that, we send it off to be digitized. And the digital copies go onto a server, and we have them in an electronic format.
So the-
Otherwise,
so
we
the-
would not have enough room to
Right,
store all
and
of that
I get that totally.
paper.
But so the digital stands in for
Yes.
paper
Yes.
copy?
Even,
And that
even
is-
employee records are considered that way. So
Oh,
as long
wow.
as you have a record of the copy of anything, like, it's pretty good. Each of them has different time frames, but
Well, yeah, I know, they had a whole schedule that you had to, yeah.
Yep.
so if as
I've
long as
seen-
you
I've seen
have
that
the
schedule.
records for 7 years, then you're good to go.
And then the way that we back that up is that when they digitize it, they give us a small hard drive, and we keep that in a fireproof pouch in the safe, as well as it being backed up in our usual backup electronically. So we upload it to a server, and then our server is backed up, so we kind of have it
Yeah, you can
double
back
backed
up to
up.
the backup.
Yeah. We used to keep that hard drive in a safe deposit box, and then the bank stopped having safe deposit boxes, so we have put it in a fireproof pouch in our own safe.
Well,
for now.
that's a little piece of trivia I learned tonight.
Yeah, we had one for a long time, and there are very few banks that have safe deposit boxes anymore. and
Where
so-
will I keep all my jewels?
I don't know.
You have to bury them in the backyard.
But like, we would have to go to a different branch, or like it was far away, or we would
Yeah.
have to like go to an entirely different bank that would have the deposit box.
And they keep
And
changing.
then we all had to go at the same time, that, I remember that was the
Oh,
issue too,
yeah.
is
So
if
anyone
there were
who could have
multiple
access
signers, yeah.
could have access to it, everyone had to show up at the same time. And then like say Jan was gonna be taken off, you all had to go.
Oh, boy.
They don't do it
Yeah.
electronically anymore.
Yeah, no.
And I was like, okay, this is a bit much.
Yeah. So if anything got lost in between shifting from one safe deposit box to another, which happened in a family issue, you can't find it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So we
that could-
determined that having the hard copy as a drive and protecting the drive to the best of our ability and then backing up to the cloud was just the way we were gonna have to go, so. That felt like our best effort, so.
I think it sounds fine.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. Any other questions about that? Is there any want to sit down with Melissa and have a conversation about this? Or do we feel like her report is?
Well, how do you feel? Do you?
I
you
feel,
feel
I did get to sit down with
confident?
her. I would like to know if the board needs to also have a chance to sit down with her.
Personally, I'm set, I'll be interested to hear the results of the audit.
Yep,
I think that'll be the true validation.
okay, very good.
So once this is complete at the end of April, then when they do the audit in May, we'll get a quick,
Right,
wanted to
they'll-
make su-
They'll look at everything. and-
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, if you wanted a committee to do that, that I would volunteer
Okay.
to sit down with her, but I don't personally, I think that this is pretty complete, but should it come up after the audit that we do wanna sit down with her and look at some things more closely, I would be happy to
Okay.
participate in that.
And Nicole and I worked with her directly, and she was excellent to work with, very efficient, very responsive, local, popped in when we needed her to, answered additional questions.
Especially because it was new software, so she was able to kind of keep it and kind of look around and find things that could fit in, so that was very helpful.
Yeah, yeah, so she did
another pair of eyes, always good.
from our perspective, she did a great job, so we were very pleased
When I
with
look
the
at
work.
this, I can see that she combed through everything, literally every penny.
She's
Very
thorough.
thorough.
Went through and where she found these differences, she identified what they were. And then a lot of them are just like reclassifications between accounts over here.
Yeah, she had sent me a couple emails, and she said, like, can you look at these when you get in the office, because by then she'd give me back all the files.
Mhm.
And she wanted to make sure, because they seemed like ones that didn't really go in those accounts.
Yeah,
So she just wanted to make sure that those actually went in there, so that shows you she went through it pretty,
yep,
Mhm.
yeah, I can see that. So when I see that, I'm just like, well, you know, it is what it is, and she comes down to an exact total here, although I'm not sure what this, oh, I'm sorry, I see what it is now. But I mean, she's got it all just detailed right down to the penny. I don't
Yeah,
really think that we need to bother her with
okay.
a special meeting.
Well, and the other thing that was really nice was that I think she, as I said, she answered the questions. I did ask her about the scope of work, because we were all a little concerned that maybe the project was bigger than she realized. And so I asked her, I said, how did you feel about the scope of work? And she said, well, it was a little more complicated than I thought it was gonna be. But she said I was able to keep it within the time frame that I said I was going to, and she finished it on time as well. And I said, did you feel like you put in more hours than what you had spec'd out the proposal? And she said no, that she had managed to
Okay.
keep it pretty tight.
Alright.
So, yeah, but she must have been working like, nose to the grindstone, because I was concerned that maybe she didn't realize the scope of work, but
So her time management was also
her
good.
time management was great. It must have been great, yeah.
Okay,
So-
excellent.
I'm sorry, can I ask one more technical
Sure,
question? So
sure.
we have some where, so for instance, you'll have the online version versus the hard version, and then the difference. Might be
Mhm.
positive or negative amount. As I'm looking through, do we ever reconcile the difference? Between the two sets of numbers?
I think in terms of reconciling the difference, the problem we were running into was that the online version was changing the amounts.
Because it was so off that.
So I think
we
that it may not
trust.
be possible for us to, we're
Okay.
gonna have to go with the paper version, because I think
Okay.
it was literally recalculating things.
Okay, thank you.
So it would, like, for example, Oxford Bank is our credit card company, okay? So when you do that, there's usually hundreds and hundreds of line items on there, because each charge is a line item. So what it initially did, when it redid things, is it pulled each of those off it made a check. So each item was a check. And if that check number already existed, it deleted it from somewhere else. So like, for example, our Michigan Outdoor Services, who we paid to do our lawn, they might be missing a check in July, because that check number was diverted to Oxford Bank. So that's where those minuses and additions come from, because it didn't even exist in the online version anymore.
Thank you for the
So they were-
explanation.
Which is
That
why
was
we
well
knew we had a
described, thank you.
problem.
That's helpful, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
I don't have any other questions.
It was literally a software glitch. It was just a very strange anomaly, so. Okay.
Okay,
Any other questions about that?
if not,
That was my meeting for this evening, was to get you caught up on a bunch of projects and things that we were working on, so.
okay. Very, very succinct. And therefore, I will accept a motion for adjournment.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The ayes have it. We stand adjourned at 7:20 or 7:19, however the clock. Thank you.